You're listening to SM Media.
Hi, folks, and welcome to our latest episode of SM Media's Countdown to Cheltenham 2025. I'm Scott Pike. It's an absolute pleasure to be your host as always. We are obviously just back from covering the November meeting at Cheltenham, where we saw a lot of exciting horses. And it's always a delight to be joined by the one and only Callum McClurkin from the Scottish Daily Mail.
Hi there, yeah, all good. Beginning to see the better quality horse come out now. Bit of rain up here. It's pretty cold, frosty. It'll probably weather watch a little bit for Haydock. We lost Hexham on Wednesday, so
Lost
yeah, I
Subtle
mean,
as well, which I can't help but laugh at.
yeah, so all weather, but not on that occasion. It's one of those things, the weather turns one way, and it's now frosty to worried about rather than the dryness. But yeah, the signs that there's decent horses now beginning to come out. I think we saw some really good ones, particularly like Cheltenham over,
Yes.
over the November meeting. So yeah, it's beginning to click into gear at last.
It was obviously a very mixed weekend at Cheltenham. You saw kind of some really good performances. We had a really bad day on Sunday, which was just kind of marked the occasion. But like one thing, you have to take away that obviously like one thing that jumps the eye in is, and I know the kind of coverage is a bit kind of depressing at times. Like when you look at the care the horses get, that kind of that kind of shows you that there is heart in this game, even though there is the most tragic of circumstances.
Yeah, three lost of lives at Cheltenham on the Sunday. A very sad postscript that a Buffalo Soldier being the most high profile one. I
Yeah,
think it was on TV afterwards when it collapsed in the winners' enclosure. I mean, I kind of missed it. I glanced around. I thought it just fell down like the groom was having a play or something. I only caught the tail end of it as of flicking through to Navan and
yeah.
things like that. But yeah, it was just one of those kind of shocking incidents. And Bangers and Cash was actually again was another time that I glanced away. He was kind of his incident was caught on camera. So
Right.
and when you see that in the age of social media, though, I mean, in the mainstream TV, and just obviously, understandably, don't show it and put the screens up for privacy. But it's that's still there on Twitter and things like that. So you can't really get away from it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those that's opened up that kind of familiar can of worms. It happens in the jump scheme. I mean, people society is becoming a bit more sensitive to it, and if you don't, you people grieve in a different way, and if it's too much for people, then they simply won't watch it. But the thing is, I mean, you've got to understand like how nobody hurts more than the trainer, the stable staff, and the people that care for the horse the most. And the fundamental bottom line is that the horses wouldn't be here if the sport wasn't here.
Mhm.
As simple as that. I mean, they exist because of the sport. They're working animals, and they're not pets. That's what they're there to do, and they've got no other use if that's the case. So yeah, it's a tough watch at times, but everyone in the sport understands the risk, and as punters, not within the industry, looking outside in, we have absolutely enormous trust and 100% faith in that the trainers, the vets, the stable staff, and the whole authority are doing the right thing by caring for these animals, and they continue to evolve. I mean, the fatality rate's 0.2%, keeping up to 0.4 sometimes in jumps, but that's as pretty safe as it gets. When down the lines in these working animals, I mean, horses were like used for war, things like that, pulling like massive
Yeah.
plows and things used for transport basically. So it's evolved in a way, the breeding industry, to make them racehorses and thoroughbreds to a certain extent. But if we didn't do for this, then what would you do them for? So yeah, it is one of those horrible incidences, and the connections will still feel for it forever. But I would recommend go to Kinnison.com with Nick Alexander, the Scottish trainer. He's posted something that's really pertinent about it,
Mhm.
and I think that's kind of the way to go about things. These animals give maximum effort, and in turn they get maximum care, and that's the kind of deal we make.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it is obviously quite vital to look at that. We did have some questions over the weekend, obviously, and then we'll get into our kind of top five performances. We'll start with one that we had a bit of a debate about privately, but it's one that was coming off the up in the ante last week where they talked about I think it was ranked 1 to 5 in a race. What are your top three festival performances of all time? I have went very much the direction of three performances that not only won me a bit of money, but were very much visually impressive. Going to give you first. What's your number three?
Number three be 2013 champion chase, Sprinter Sacre, probably. I think that was just spectacular. Size of Europe, a good young pretender, and he just swatted him aside. It stretched away clear. I think it's probably the best 2 mile performance you'll ever see in a champion chase. So yeah, I mean that was number three.
Yeah, I did think you would go sprinter in another one, so I've left them out of mine. I'm going for number three, and you'll laugh at this, but at the time I thought it was sublime. I really thought we had the 2014 champion hurdle winner, and it was our corner in the 2013
Mm-hmm.
Triumph hurdle, 4-1. Remember he went off Desi Hughes, but you very young Brian Cooper. I remember this was when kind of Brian Cooper was beginning to emerge. I think he got the Jigginstown job the year after. Am I right? It just was emerging as that kind of really exciting young jockey. Our corner, just the way that he jumped, it was literally effortless how he drew clear at the second last and then just romped up the hill. Remember him being 4-1, beating Nichols horse that Ruby was on for 15 lengths. Remember that was the year Ruby fell off the horse. Remember he fell off the horse at the track or something. Like, remember they were walking up to the start and he fell off and ended up in the
Could well have been. Yeah,
enclosure or something. But it always stick out to me. Our corner I thought was absolutely sublime in that year, and that would be my number three.
fair enough. I mean, it's one of those what ifs with him in his career.
Yes,
Later on, yeah, he did. When you mentioned Triumph hurdle winners, he's definitely near the top of the list.
yeah. What's your number two?
2009 Gold Cup, Cato Star regaining his crown. It's just phenomenal. What he did. Very hard to come back, and we've seen horses go back to back since. And win a couple of row best mate, win it 3 in a row. I've been photoed twice, Gallop in the shop recently twice. But to get beat from your younger stablemate Denman and then come back, beat him again, and win an even better performance. I thought it was unbelievable. And he was a horse that wasn't really associated with Cheltenham as much in his career. And I think that's what makes it special, because when it doesn't, that was never a race that really played to his strengths, and he was so good as a horse that he was still able to do that. And I think that's one of probably the best Gold Cup performance I've seen in certainly this century. It was terrific.
Yeah, number two for me is Vautour in the 2015 GLT, because just watch that back. If you ever want to watch a horse who just jumps everything, slick as anything. I know the field wasn't great, and I know it is a case of what if with Vautour. He won 3 Cheltenham festivals, but you look at the day where you thought this is the next big thing. It was that day, just the way he pinged everything. Ruby, I remember Ruby the morning of the show. I think it was still on Channel 4, and you just the confidence was oozing out of him, and he went off. I'm sure he went off 13-8, but I think I got him at like 6-1.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big winner.
Be unheard of now, getting a Vautour at 6-1.
He was absolutely incredible though. Just that day. And the big argument I have with my dad a lot is there's not as many superstars now as there was back kind of early 2000s where you had like Istabrat, Barracuda, Best Mate. I thought this was the one who I thought, right, he could be as good as them. I thought that. Remember, he should have went for the Gold Cup the year after, but I think it was a wee bit of kind of politics going on with the connections at the time, and they had always said that he maybe wasn't going because of how poor he was working. And then you saw in a race, we'll get into this in the next question. You saw in a race course, he was just unbelievable. Doesn't matter what he's doing at home. In a race course, he was different level.
Yeah, I mean, I think that year they could have just played it safe, and they were planning to it next year, and then obviously it didn't materialise, so they had to kind of steadily up and trip, because
Yeah,
he did have that much pace as well. Yeah, I mean, the race when he took like 3 lengths at a Road to Riches or in the turn as if it was seamless was quite something. Again, he's one of those kind of horses that is very flashy and produces performance that just stick in your mind. And that's why you come back round to these horses. But yeah, probably had the most potential in that kind of Rich Ritchie,
Yeah.
Willie Mullins, golden period. There was so many of them, like Fohinani Power, Duvan of the world as well. So I mean, Jack Adam was a very good horse that didn't quite get it done, but I mean, there was a good 5 or 6 of them back then, and there's still a good few of them still now.
What's your number one?
Well, Guzzi said all time to go through the archives before I was born, but again, it's a quote style like 1989 when Desert Orchid won a Gold Cup.
Mm-hmm.
He was an absolute Kempton specialist in a statue there and stuff. But he looked, I mean, that is proper attritional, old school national hunt racing where he's trying to use his pace. And he's flapping away like three from home, going the same pace. And you think, well, he's just going to get outstayed again. He's not going to win. And somehow he just does. And there's just this flashy grey. He's one of these horses that stands the test of time. And so when you think performances and all-time things, it's got to be in the big races, champion hurdles, champion chases, Gold Cups. He's a proper legend of the horse. Kempton was his bag, Sandown was his bag. He'd do it 2 miles, but I think that again he was one of the Gold Cup that's probably out of reach for him, even no matter how good he was. And that day he just went to the wall. How he dug into the well so deep it was unbelievable. It was kind of. It was just a victory for perseverance that day. I mean, when you kind of see when people told you about horses like Desert Orchid, and you think Kempton, King George, and then you watch these King George wins, and then you see this Cheltenham win. When you see those King George wins, you'd never for a second believe that Desert Orchid is going to win that Gold Cup. Even when I watch it back over and over again, and the other horses beside him, you just expect him to be outstayed because of his association with the King George. And he just somehow kept jumping well, even though when they were both obviously absolutely shattered. And these are horses that just danced every dance back then. And coming back to kind of what happened to the Buffalo Souls and things like that, the resolution of the breed back then was much, much stronger. The Desert Orchid totally epitomised that. He was an absolute warrior, and that was one of his finest hours. Again, a track and a trip that certainly didn't play his strengths, but he was so good. Like Kato Star was, he was able to overcome it on the odd occasion, and it's pretty special when we watch it back. So the 1989 Gold Cup.
Yeah, it came up in my YouTube a couple of months ago, and I remember watching it and remember, same as you, just thinking how he found what he did. But you do maybe associate more with Kempton and associate more with kind of pace, but just the way he pulls that out. I'm going for number one. I'm not going as far back as 1989. I'm going to go for 2008, and it was Masterminded in the Champion Chase. This was a horse who, at the start of the season, was running in handicaps of 145 and ended the season with a rating of 186. Massive performance. Voy Puristedes had won the race a year before. Masterminded had come completely under the radar and just kept progressing and puts in a performance unlike I think I've ever seen in a 2 mile champion chase. He was just magnificent. And to do that and to be like, you wouldn't get that now. You wouldn't get a horse just progressing the way it does. And he went off 3-1. He wasn't even favourite. He beat Voy Puristedes in the Game Spirit the month before, and Voy Puristedes was still favourite going into the champion chase. And to beat him by 18 lengths, just the way he jumped, just the way again, just that turn round the bend that we talk about, he was just magnificent. So I think just in terms of a race, a horse that got me off my chair, it was Masterminded in that 2008 champion chase, I think.
Yeah, he's a cracking horse. I always thought he was slightly overrated, personally. I don't think he'd beaten much there. Voy Puristedes was borderline kind of done, but his Game Spirit was probably the big number that got him up to it, and then backed it up in the champion chase. He was very good operator on his day. That's for sure. But there's so many that you can go through, and for different reasons as well. Visually, you can stick in your mind, historical context of it, the nature of the race. Your betting kind of bank as well. So there's so many different reasons why people adore this game, and that we've named 6 of them there.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe a horse that's maybe causing a bit of surprise that didn't get mentioned there was Constitution Hill, being the talk of the town the past couple of days. Is the Constitution Hill Gallop being over-analysed?
Well, I mean, it's one of those things that is, I think National Hunt Racing's kind of a boring start to the season. One gallop later, and it shows that it's full of life and opinions. People are really splitting this, aren't they?
Yeah.
There's people that aren't bothered, that think, that's fine. He's not going to be fully wound up anyway, so they're just leaving a bit to work on. He's going to have 2 bits of work at home, and everyone will be hunky dory come Newcastle. And there's others that see, well, he's not getting past Sergino. He's never looked like getting past Sergino, and he's looked a bit laboured. Watching it, you'd have to think it was near the latter. I mean, it's a Gallop. I mean, my personal opinion is I don't really have much of one here, because what can you really take out of it? Not a great deal, personally. But if you're watching it there, you watch a video, you wouldn't be impressed by it. I mean,
the thing that jumped out to me though is, see if we didn't have a visual, see if we didn't see it, and we heard from Nico and Nicky how good it was, because they were kind of quite happy with it. He would probably come out. He would probably be getting backed in.
Well, their faces told a different story, didn't it? I mean, trainers say one thing and the other thing happens. I mean that's the kind of thing. I mean, a lot of bettors have watched that, trust their eyes, and say, well, you've got to take that horse on because it's not working well. I mean that's the kind of thing. It didn't work well. I mean, but it was ornery. He was heavily blowing afterwards. With the video, with a bucket of water there, and De Boinville, Buckley, and Henderson, I thought all looked pretty forlorn. And then you've got to put your brave face on it and present it as a good front. That might still be an overreaction. I mean, it's like, we were here 2 weeks ago saying it was 11-8 for the champion hurdle, decent enough value. Now all of a sudden it looks poor. So I mean, it can change. We've not even had a race yet. The thing, it depends what viewpoint you take on it. I mean, I don't really have much of one, because I don't think you can really learn too much in Gallops. People look for different things, and all of a sudden, but he wasn't making a noise.
No.
His enthusiasm was still there to my naked eye, but he looked unfit, and he looked a bit laboured, and you would have to question if the old engine is still there. But you won't know that until he races, where they fully ask him. So I'd largely be on the fence, but if I had to pick a side, I would probably lean towards the more cynical side of things, rather than the kind of rosy picture, because I think they would have in a public workout. I think they would have expected a little bit better than that. I think they would at least expect him to get by Sergino in the Watton thing. I don't think you can unveil it to the public and say, here we are. They're not going to send him to work like that. So I think they would expect a little better, but I don't think it's the end of the world kind of thing.
Sergino got backed into 4s, the Arkle, off the base of that. He was 6s in the morning now. Then I've just looked there and he's 4-1. So people
again, that's the flip side of it as well. I think Sergino might be a very, 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 very good horse as well.
But can the argument be made that we've been told by everybody around the horse since we first heard of him that he's the most laid back horse when he's not in a race, when he's not racing, and he puts in these performances and is far better when he's got the Buckley colours on and he's racing. So is that not to be looked into as well? That it might just be a case of that until he's on a racetrack, on a race course, and running a proper race over the usual trip, you don't really see the best of him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you've got to see the best of the horse on the racetrack. That's why they're there for. I mean, it's no point. I mean, it's like a football match. You might be the best trainer in the world, but if you go out there 90 minutes and you stink the place out, then it's not going to help anybody. So, but I just think he didn't look that fit, but he has had problems. Colic, wind. I think if he looked to me as a horse that's slowly on the way back, but on the way back to what level? I mean, do they really ever come back? No, Sprinter Sacre came back, but the majority of cases you'd have to kind of say no, particularly horses at that level, that were really top notch.
Yeah.
But even maybe 90% of Constitution Hill can be good enough still.
The best comparison I can think of is it might just be a Ronaldo. He might be away for a while, not be back to the unbelievable levels he was at before injury, but still be at a ridiculously good level, just not what we had before he got hurt. That's kind of running in my head. That's what's kind of going through my head. You might never see him hit a 177 again, but I'd still fancy him even if he's £10 below his best to be competitive in this division.
Yeah, but I mean, the fighting fist's going to tell more, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, you've got to. While we could be sceptical that the market might have overreacted a little bit, there are bookies at these things as well. There's bookies that do his PR, and they're watching the same thing.
Yeah.
And if you're watching it live automatically, and you're saying that's supposed to be an odds-on favourite shot for the Champion Hill. You wouldn't really believe it, would you? I mean, sometimes you've got to trust your own eyes, and sometimes you've got to block out the kind of hyperbole surrounding it as well, and kind of back yourself if you're playing. To me, it's a Champion Hurdle market that looks hideous right now. Totally avoid it, and I think you've just got to wait and see how he runs in the Fighting Fifth. See what the market build up to the hour beforehand of the Fighting Fifth is the day before it. Even if he runs in the Fighting Fifth, which some people suggest that you're not. So, but it's an interesting. I mean, I don't. He's a horse that's held in such regard that he sparks such ferocious debate about the kind of minuscule things in the world, like a Gallop's about as minuscule as it gets. Wait and see. I would be 60-40 kind of cynically against him at this point, but I would not commit any cash to the Champion Hurdle market or the Fighting Fifth market or anything about Constitution Hill at the moment. I just kind of take a back seat and observe the fight as it goes on.
Yeah, and it makes the Fighting Fifth market a tiny bit interesting as well, because it was like, what price will Constitution Hill go off? But now your Mystical Power might go, Brighter Days Ahead might go. It's shaping up to be quite an interesting market, but it is going to be all about Constitution Hill. On the weekend at Cheltenham, what horse not named Jonbon do you think has the best chance of winning at the festival who ran at Cheltenham over the weekend?
Yeah, it's going to be a handicapper, realistically. Be Aware could be Langer Dan Mark 2.
Okay.
He was second in the Greatwood, stayed on, needed it further. Split two, obviously, well handicapped horses at the top of the market, and Burdett rode the winner and Dysartinos third. He ran on really well. He's going to improve up in trip. Dan Skelton said that he's going to stay handicap and he's going to go through the ranks a little bit, and he's going to middle distance handicap, second season novice kind of thing. Yeah, and if he stays reasonably handicapped between 140, 145, then I think he's got to be an obvious player. That's the main one I would take out of it as a non-winner directly for the festival anyway.
I really liked the performance up until the 3 out of Tommy Bow, and it looks a bit mad, but the way the cross country is going to go, he would be the one to take away. I don't understand that's why people are batting conflated. I know he went out the betting. It was like there was absolutely no chance he was going to win that race, and Tommy Bow would probably the one to take from that, even though he ran out. I think he could be if this is going to be a handicap race similar to this. I don't think he'll go up too much, and I don't think he'll be any higher than maybe 155 come the festival, and I think it could be good off that.
He's nowhere near a 155. I mean, I backed him in the day. That was the kind of day for him, and he ran out, and I'm kind of kicking in the TV because I actually thought he was going to win. I know Sweet David was travelling well behind him, but £17 out the weights, and he jumped the third last so well that he ran out. I mean, I know the jockey's gone taking the wrong course anyway, but he pinged it so well that he was almost at the rail anyway. So even when you looked at it, he couldn't really take reversive action. I think he was kind of stamping his class on the race a little bit. Not that he's particularly classy, but I thought he was forward and speedy and enjoying it and was giving a bold sight. The problem with backing this now as a handicap is there's another one of these races in the December meeting.
Yeah.
And if he wins that, then he blows his mark for marks and things like that.
That's my worry.
That's issue. That's why when these races are turned into handicaps, you really can't touch them until the new year, until 6 weeks out, where there's kind of no alternative.
20-1 still kicking about at the moment.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, if you don't know what he's going to do in this, you presume he's the type of hardy horse that kind of runs and all these kind of things anyway. So he's one that his mark's probably going to move. So yeah, I think he's definitely one Mario. He's definitely probably one I'll go in again in December. But yeah, I was
no fancy Mr. Coffee at 12-1 at reverse form.
Well, he was second, but he was a type that would like to run at it. He would need it softer as well, but he is the kind of quirky type that could run into it, and he did enjoy it. But he was a bit slow, but softer ground could bring him into it. But again, he doesn't like winning, does he? So,
what do you think of Fakir Duderi going down this route?
Don't care. But he's off too high a weight, isn't he? I mean,
yeah.
He's one of those horses that had been around for a long time since his juvenile days, where he was racing the Supreme and things like that, and I think age is just kind of catching up with him. A bit like Conflated, I think he's kind of borderline had enough, and this is kind of last chance saloon stuff for him.
Right, let's get into our performances over the week. We have top five performances over the weekend. I'm going to start with you. What was the one that caught your? What was one that caught your eye?
One that caught my eye, thought was probably Better Days Ahead.
Okay.
The way he beat Slade Steele. I think he's tactically very forward. He's a very straightforward horse. You know, whether he's got the class of Brown Advisory, I'm not sure. But I thought it was a good race. I thought the second was okay. I didn't think it was that bad. I thought his jumping was good.
I thought he looked a bit like he was struggling.
I don't think so. I mean, I thought he struggled with the tactics of it. I think his jumping was fine. I think Henry de Bromley's left a bit on him, like he kind of did with Bob Owens, a couple of his top notchers that day. I think the trip was too far from him,
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
and I think he was I think the stop-start nature of it he didn't like. I think he just wants a truly run race, and probably softer ground. So I think I warm up to things in the spring, and I think true run race like you did get in the Supreme, for instance, and things like that. I think he'll improve. I think he'll be fine. I think taking him out at 16-1 for Arco was maybe a bit of an overreaction. The winner's a solid horse. It's interesting to see where he goes. I think he's a very he's a very safe jumper. He's a very uncomplicated type. And again, he's further proof of that this Martin Pike that churns out very, very good horses year after year. I think Caddy Bourbon's going to be a very interesting horse moving forward as well. I mean, those two in particular, I think, are going to be really kind of novice chasers to follow in the Brown Advisory division. So I think that was a good debut from Better Days Ahead on what's usually a decent form line.
I am going to stick to Navan as well on Sunday. I thought the Yellow Clay was again very, very good. Showed a wee turn of turn of foot that I thought was quite impressive as well, which makes you think he could come back. I know it was obviously 2.5. Like you were thinking blatant stare. I think there is potential. I don't think he's a Martin Pipe horse now. I don't see that happening. I think he's going to take high rank in the Ballymore and Bartlett markets. It's just depending where he goes at. Probably leaning towards stare. But I think he showed a wee bit of a turn of foot that makes me think he could be a 2.5 horse.
Yeah, I thought he won a weekend race again, but I mean, I think he could be. I think the most interesting to me, I think, would be top weight of Martin Pipe.
Okay.
I think he's Better Days Ahead again. I think he's a kind of Hall of Games type. I don't think he's a top notch. The thing that impressed me about him was 2 out he made a mistake and he was hard back the bridle and then sauntered away again. He was a highly rated. He was a joint highest rated in that champion bumper of 132. So he's translated that form into hurdles. He's probably about 140 right now. I think he'll go to the Lawlers and the Ace. He'll be campaigned as if he's a kind of Turner's novice hurdle, the 2.5 miler. He could go up to the Bartlett. The owners, I don't think, are keen in that race after what happened to Ginto too much.
Yeah.
I think they might take their time with him. And, he's already 2 runs in the bank. We haven't seen the best in this division yet. He could he looks like maybe second or third at the moment now. I mean, by the end of New Year, start of February, going into DRF season, he might slip down the pecking order 7th or 8th, and then all of a sudden he is a Martin Pipe.
Well, they do have wingmen as well, who I thought looked like an out and out steer.
Wingmen to me look like a Limerick horse. He likes to go right-handed. I think he's one that would take to Limerick. I think he's kind of like Fakir Delane type. He's definitely more of a steer.
Yeah.
He's definitely.
I think the Bromhead horse there's a steer as well.
It's the same race that Stellar Story on and things like that. Where his kind of Bartlett horses tend to start out. I think he's probably more of that route, and I think you'll probably see him in that kind of Limerick time at Christmas, but I think he probably likes soft ground. So I think he's probably more of a stayer, and I think he'll try and get this Yellow Clay to 2.5 miles, be a top notcher. If he doesn't quite make it, then he could be Martin Pipe. See what the handicapper does when he has enough runs to qualify. What
is the next horse that caught your eye over this week?
Good question. The next horse, Lou de Sud, was very good. 148 rated hurdler, second in a strong county hurdle. John probably entitled to do what he did. After he banked one at Stratford, but it was very good reappearance run after that into the Arkle trial. John should win, but I didn't think he'd be that impressive. Didn't think he'd be that quick I was surprised by how much pace he showed, because when I saw him at Ayr, and this might have been off the back of the county hurdle where he was prepped for, he looked a bit slow. He didn't quite have the tactical speed in that Scottish champion hurdle, and he was well fancied that day as well. He just didn't quite get tabs of them. And that's why I thought, 2 mile slick Artle test, well, a couple of them went quite hard early on. We'd get him out of comfort zone, they didn't. He comfortably the cruising speed to deal with it, and then he developed the hill accordingly. He's easily now a 150 horse. He's translated that hurdles onto in fences. He'll probably go to the Henry VIII next. He'll probably be outside Sergino the best 2 miler in Britain. And I think, if you had a year of Edwardstone's Arkle and the Arkle in behind Gaelic Warrior and maybe found the 50, he would have been. He's a massive player. He's there in figures. I haven't seen the best Irish, but the thing is, with the Turners gone, you're going to get more class horses running here now than he did 2.5, that probably have the similar attributes of staying 2.5 that he does. So it might make life a bit kind of tougher for him a little bit. So I think that's the only reason you would hang fire on him about 12, 14 to 1 at the moment. But I think it's a serious horse. I think he might be the best British horse we've seen quite some time.
Did you see Ruby's analysis on Harry Skelton, just the ride? Again, I'm not like Ruby's obviously the master for analysing jockey rides and things like that, but he was very, very praiseworthy of Harry Skelton's ride on him.
I think he's improved massively. Like the whole Skelton operation has it. If you get better horses and you've got a training method that works and it's getting results, that inspires confidence in the horse. It also inspires confidence in the jockey, and the jockey knows he could. I've got a better quality horse here. I can maybe take my time a bit more, or be more tactically aware, or he could maybe kind of be more aggressive in what he wants. So it just gives you more confidence, and it's shown in his riding. I think he's riding a lot better. I think he's judging the pace a little bit better as well, I think, now, and timing it. And I was impressed with him at Ayr, and okay, it was pretty run of the mill stuff, and you'd expect him to, but there wasn't that kind of rush of blood to the head or panic that sometimes is associated with him a little bit when you're like, I've got to kick on. He certainly doesn't do that now, and when he does, he knows what he's got underneath him, and it usually lasts. So yeah, that's what happens. You need better horses, higher results, better owners coming into the game, better lines. You're going to get a jockey that's going to be riding more confidently and better. So it's all working out, and the Skeltons had 4 winners at the festival last year. It's not some sort of like, this is an unknown Brit that's got absolutely no chance against the Irish best. This is a top yard, and they've got some horses now to really go to war at the top level, and he's certainly won.
I am going to go all the way back to Monday at Kempton. I thought the first sighting of Nicky Henderson's Calibet on Vol, I thought was very, very good. Probably more of a chaser down the line, but I thought again showed a real pace. Obviously running over 2.5. There's 20s going about for the Supreme with Bet365, and there's 20s going about for the Turners Novices Hurdle. I potentially think his best days will probably be next season onwards, but I just thought the way it's a poor race. I don't think there was a lot in it, but just the way he jumped, I thought he travelled really well into the race, and he looks to be an exciting prospect.
Could well be. I kind of missed that race, but it was the same race that Donny the Great won in kind of similar fashion. It'll be interesting to see who can kick on if Nicky Henderson can get a clear run into him. But he was a horse that I saw at Ayr in the bumper where Gordon Elliott's won. Yeah. It was good. That looked like definitely like a good bumper for our standard in the Scottish Grand National meeting. So and he was reasonably well fancied that day. That looked quite a high class race with the number of kind of top trainers going for it that day. So yeah, that's an interesting line of form to see it work out. I'd personally be surprised if it was Cheltenham class, but you never know.
We're on to next. What caught your eye as well? What was it? Any other horses caught your eye?
Burdett Road was impressive. Got to say, it didn't quite work out for him before the triumph because he had a setback, pulled it out. They had to learn it was settle. But Harry Coleman rode him very confidently. We knew he was well in. It was whether he can get us settle him and maybe have the tactical speed up the hill, and he did. Just buck him out and be straightforward with him. Off 133, he was probably well. He was probably well in anyway. It's flat off like 109, wasn't he? So yeah, I'm talking about a high class horse. and he's a throwback old hurdler. You know, he does jump like a proper quick 2 miler. You know, like these kind of former flatbreds did, like Estebracks of the world and things like that. So he is kind of it's a bit of an old fashioned throwback in the way of champion hurdler, because he's not really from the national hunt uh, sire scene. So it's interesting to see how far he can go. I mean, I'd imagine he could probably win another couple of handicaps. Trainer's dreaming of champion hurdle. I think that might be a bit of a stretch, but he's foregoing for a 4-year-old to win a race of that nature is pretty impressive. And be backed in accordingly, and to see it out the way he did. Ground doesn't really matter to him too much. Beating behind, his jumping's improving, he's relaxing better, and he's young enough to really sharply improve and get to graded quality. I'm really interested to see how far he goes. Champion Hill this season, I think, probably is a stretch. Maybe 2 seasons time if he keeps improving, possibly. But there's a lot of good handicap races. He's well ahead of the handicap. There's a lot of good races that he can go and win. He's certainly one to follow this season.
Yeah, I would take positives for the second and third in the race as well. I thought Be Aware probably would have got there if there was another 100 yards, but I think he really showed a real turn. I think he could be one for a handicap down the line. I think he's still on a decent mark. Dysart Enos, I think, just her jumping let her down a bit. I think she was just jumped a wee bit too left at times. She was
I
losing
thought she
legs.
was too prominent. I thought she was too fresh. I think. I think fitness wise, I think she was probably at 4, but I think she saw too much daylight. I think she's one that needs to kind of come further back in sport horses.
I wouldn't be surprised if they go Mare's hurdle trip with her, if they try and see if they can get her to kind of go over further down the line.
I had her penned down as a 2 miler last season, and I didn't see anything that changed my mind there. She needs to settle a lot better to get the extra distance and be to cope with the rising grade. But she can do, and there's a lot of time. She did miss a lot last season, so she was maybe entitled to need it more than the market suggests. But when a horse goes off that short and they're that confident that she's that well in, she probably will be down the line. She will pop up somewhere. There's a brilliant prize. There's a brilliant 2 mile handicap at Kempton on King George Day. The one that Marie's Rock won the year that she won the Mare's Hurdle. That would be ideal for her.
Yeah, I'm going to go same colours as Burdett Road. I think definitely the best juvenile performance of the season so far. I think it really shows that James Owen's probably as good a guy as any to get these kind of flat horses that are going hurdling. East India Dock I thought was very good. The one thing that really caught my eye about him was jumping was very, very slack. Do you know that way you've got maybe Burdett Road's quite similar. I think he's a better jumper than Burdett Road, but I think probably Burdett Road's a better flat horse. But the way he was just slick over his hurdles really stood out to me. I think we've got the making of a good horse here. Whether he's Triumph winner, I'm not sure. I think we've definitely not seen the best of the Irish. But in terms of a standard so far, he's set it.
That's a good standard. I mean, he was absolutely whacked in as well. He was definitely in my top 5 list this week for sure.
Yeah.
The way he did it, and he had to be, but I think he might not have the raw ability that Burdett Road is, but I think he might be harnessing it a bit better because he relaxed quite quickly. I thought he was quicker through the air. He's very efficient in what he does, and schooled pretty well. And apparently James Owen said that he's got one that might even be a little bit better in Lavender Hill Mob to come out as well. So I think the fact that Burdett Road was probably the first time of James Owen's kind of had a horse like that to be campaigned like that. Well, they've kind of, at least with this one, all right, might not be as raw talent as Burdett Road is, but you've been over course and distance. Now you know what route to go. Now you know what method to propose. That experience for the trainer as well in the yard, it could really help as a campaign. So, look, it's likely he's beat nothing. I mean, the French horse that was rated 125, the horse that he got from France, Willie Murphy, ridden by Jonbon off 125 is not a 125. I mean, it's a classic example of the handicapper's not got a clue. This horse has come from France. Let's give it a mark. It is, you're lucky if it's like 110 stuff. Let's be honest. So I wouldn't get carried away with the form, but I think that was a 130 performance. You'd have to say, and an all
trial 134, I think he got.
Yeah, just that's probably quite a realistic RPR, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I kind of pinned it down to 130. If the Irish have a good one, you need to find at least a stone. But he could. I mean, he's not been in a situation. He's eased up in the line. It looked good in the clock, and it looked good in the eye. So Yeah, and if you want to row in, say that's Triumph Horse follow, then possibly. Yeah, 9 10 to 1, but a Triumph Horse this season, makes no appeal. I mean, if you look at all the markets, there's about 60 names down there in the Triumph already, and we've seen, you're lucky we've seen 5 of them. So
Yeah,
just because of the nature of the market, wouldn't be for me, but visually it looked good.
yeah, absolutely. And any others that caught your eye?
The last one to me, it had to be Porter's Charm again at
Yes.
Cheltenham. Now people are putting this up as a 2.5 miler, run it the Challow and things like that. I think this is a Bartlett horse.
Yeah.
I mean, Valgren went too quick and he's outstayed him comfortably. He's hit the line hard. He looks a very straightforward, honest, hardy, each way player in Albert Bartlett to me. The way he does it, he reminds me of the Twisted Davis horse, Holstone. Remember him?
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was third in the Bartlett. He took in those 2 Cheltenham trials and was first and second. Lesser results, but probably better form as he beat West's Approach of the Tizzards and things. When they're really challenging, he went off 13-2 in a battle and was third. I think he might have a bit more class and a bit more speed, but I don't think he can win a 2.5 mile top race at the festival. They're
Was
going to
that
campaign him like that.
you know what I mean? Harry won that Bartlett, am I right? I think he did.
Possibly,
I
yeah, I
think he
can't
did.
remember the winner, but I backed Holston that day, so
Did you?
that's why I don't remember the winner. I do quite like that horse, but he did remind me of him, and I backed him again, even though. And I liked the way he was probably the only horse that defied the market that weekend.
Yeah.
Every kind of whale-back favourite won. He was kind of drifting a little bit second favourite and won. He might have been flattered the race, maybe fall apart. Valgren certainly didn't run at his mark.
No.
He probably wants 2 miles. Well, the winners just outstayed him. But he's an efficient jumper. I think he's an honest horse. I wouldn't run him in the Challow. I would wait. I would go. There's a lovely 3 mile race and it's a Grade 2 in December at Cheltenham. I would go there, and then I would go to Doncaster for the 3 mile there, and then I run him in the Bartlett.
Yeah.
I think I've seen a few people put him up in 2.5 miles. I would much rather have him in the Albert Bartlett personally. That's what I think. That's what I think he is because in Twist and Davis, they can over race the horses sometimes, but I think experience in the Bartlett's very good. And I think he's so straightforward. We've seen so many of them didn't stay. All right, it was attritional ground, but I think he could. I think he's smart enough to kind of mind himself and do it. Like you can put him anywhere in a race as well. I think he looks so uncomplicated for a novice hurdler, and I think he conserves a lot of energy for himself. I think he might be outspeeded, outclassed in a proper kind of by a proper top notcher in 2.5 mile Turner's novices hurdle. I think he's a Bartlett horse all day long. That's what I like to see him.
Yeah, it could be. Like I always like seeing the Twist and Davis team have a good horse because like when they get it right, they usually do. Like the new one, for example, he won a Ballymore,
Ali Andy.
Ballyandy, Bristol de Mai. Obviously, they do get a good horse once in a while. I think he could be up there. I think Valgrand went too quick. I did not understand the Gail Maller gamble at all. It was about 12-1 at the start, and then it should get gambled into 11-2. No, I did not see that at all. I think Potter's Charm. I think his jumping improved. His jump at the last kind of
Yeah,
showed that
he's
he
better.
was yeah,
He's shown incremental improvement,
yeah.
and the Challow could be quite a hot race, and it can be quite bad ground. It can be quite attritional, and
Mm-hmm.
then a Nichols horse invariably, like Hermes Allen, invariably wins it, and then you think, oh, this is a 2.5 mile to go to war with, and they just don't have the speed, and they just can't handle the end-to-end gallop at Cheltenham, particularly down the hill. And I think he's such a good prospect for the future. He's kind of that honest, solid, hardy type that I would just see him gradually keep going that route, and I think he can maybe hit kind of borderline 150 where you're in the equation. You'd be in that kind of like last year at the Bartlett where you kind of had Shanna Bob and Captain Teague, that kind of 13-2 Albert Bartlett bracket. I think he could easily do that.
Yeah.
While if he wins the Challow and goes there, I think it could be maybe a bit of a culture shock for him in terms of pace, in terms of relentless gallop, because if Willie Mullins does send his best on this hurdler there, it's going to take him way out of his comfort zone. And for the future, it might knock him backwards as well. So I would like to see doing what they did with Holstone and kind of take it steady and go Bartlett. But we'll see what they do.
Yeah, the novices hurdle at Cheltenham. That was the Blazing Cow won it a few years ago. You mentioned Holstone. You know what I mean? Harry won that the year before. I think it was Penn Hill that maybe won that race, actually, now I think about it. But yeah, there's options there for Potter's Charm. What did you think of Jonbon's seasonal reappearance?
It's okay. He jumped really well. But in raw form, you would like to see him do a bit better and pull away from Boot Hill, and Boot Hill at times maybe looked like he'd nab him, and they came out, pulled out more. I just think he's not quite as effective at Cheltenham. Okay, his record's one that he shouldn't really knock too much, and he's won 15 of 18 or something like that. The festival still eludes him, and that's kind of, those are the big days. But he's holding all the aces at the moment because he's the one that's fit and he's the one that's reliable, and I'd expect him to improve massively in that in the Tingle Creek, where he's probably going to like the track better, the stiffer finish. The thing is, it's not a competitive environment down here, so he's just going to stay at 2 miles, and there's no reason to go up on trip because he won't get beat. You can see he's at that point now where Altion Shishkin, where you think he's still winning these races, but you're kind of thinking, he could be a bit better going up on trip, the kind of thing. So I think the temptation's probably there, but no, I think they've got to go for it and stick with the Champion Chase route, and particularly when Willie Mullins' horses do have a bit to prove. I think if you got one of them right, 100% up against Jonbon, I think you'd oppose Jonbon. But, there are big questions. El Fabiola's got to come back. He won't be seen this side of Christmas or New Year. He might go out and trip. Gaelic Warrior, you've got the same kind of question mark there. Will he actually go for this? He's not in the John Durkin. He could go the King George instead. Is he going to really drop back to Champion Chase trip for that? And Ener Gabin's been off for quite some time, and he's going to come back as an 11-year-old. Is he back? That's the kind of thing. And then the rest, Marine National's blotted his copybook already yet again. So you're kind of scratching around for any alternative to beat him, but it's such a funny race that Captain Guinness can pop up again and do it, because he just kind of, he's efficient and he stays on his feet. So yeah, he's a solid, again, like we were kind of at week one. I don't think we learned much. I think it was a bit workmanlike. I wouldn't be overly negative about it, but it was hard to be positive about it. And if Willie Mullins gets one of his 3 horses as 3 leading contenders in peak condition, then I think they'll beat Jonbon.
Okay. I really liked the ride of She Could Be Anything. She beat You Wear It Well during the week. Is she good? Is she good enough to be like a Mayor's Chase contender? She might be, but I think the ride in Jonbon I thought was sublime to get her up.
Yeah, it's very hard to do now, more than what to keep kind of these lazy types going and winning the line. It just kind of, they went quick, and he's managed to come back at them. It was a trip that was too short, but surely this is a listed horse. It's just prize hunting early season and picking up pots. It's I'd be amazed if she was kind of any kind of player in a spring festival at all.
No, probably not, but I just thought the ride was worth a mention. El Rodotto obviously won the Paddy Power Gold Cup. Stuzinski was one of the 20 Gordon Elliott horses that won the Troy Town. Home by the Lee obviously beating Bob Ollinger. We saw Founder 50, who was a bit dodgy, jumped very, very right towards the end, but got the job done in the race at Navan. Down Memory Lane was good as well. A few decent performances. Non-winning horse, any horses that didn't win that maybe are worth keeping an eye on?
I'll just expand on 2 Elliott horses that you mentioned there. Because Down Memory Lane, it was a very kind of visual, impressive performance from the front again, and he's beat King of Kingsfield and stuff like that. But he did that in his maiden hurdle, the first season, where we thought, well, this is a world class horse, and then it just went south.
It was my nap for Christmas last year against Addy Longlegs in that horrendous ground.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think he likes that ground,
Yeah.
and I think a soft ground, heavy ground could bottom. So because they kept him so wide, Navan, and that's where the best ground seemed to be. That's where he enjoyed it. And I think he's kind of a horse. I think he's incredibly talented, but I think he's the type of horse that needs it his own way.
Yeah.
I think he'd spit the dummy out higher grade. So while I think he's one to watch, like maybe in an Arkle, I think he'd be one to watch. But
I'm really hoping you say King of Kingsfield for the Grand Annual.
King Kingsfield. So I mean, I actually backed him. He backed him at 64, but I think Jack Kenny was maybe a bit too deliberate with him, because he was coming through it on, but he's mindful that he's a bit of a rogue when he hits the front. So I think he overplayed it a little bit, brought him back too much. Then he made a mistake at the last where he couldn't regain ground. He's one that's constantly going to fool people, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's once you put him completely out of the picture, he's going to loom in the rear view mirror and come swinging and think he's going to do you at a massive price and he's going to finish second again. But he's one of those. Found the 50. He actually put a big figure in on his reappearance at Down Royal, and he beat the Galway Plate winner Pinkerton by 2.5 lengths, and that's a big performance for a novice going into the open company straight away. I think he was feeling the effects of that slightly coming in the hill. Jack Kennedy said that he made a big mid-race move and he was on the bridle and he thinks he's going to go out and win it. I think actually tired. I think he's kind of feeling that performance a little bit in his legs slightly. You do have to think that he's probably slightly better right-handed, but that was a concern going into the Arkle where you think he's going to get no chance, and him and Gaelic Warrior jumped out to the right in the too classy for the rest of the field anyway. So, but his form record now is unbelievable, and he's a very hardy horse. He's not put a massive figure up. I think he's done 160 once in my liking. It's not far away in a Ryanair in a normal year, maybe even a champion chase in a wheat race. I think he was kind of feeling it slightly, and it was a lot better than what Banbridge, Captain Guinness, and Gentleman Dee produced in that day, though. I mean, Banbridge probably needed it. Captain Guinness, I think he shaped as if he's got his old heart problem back there, that he can overcome that, but that shaped to be very quickly that was the case. Gentleman Dee is a spring horse, so okay, he hasn't beat anything, he hasn't put a figure in the proximity of the 200 to 1 shot, and Solness does ping the form down, but he was given a stone to Galway plate when on reappearance, and he's come back 2 weeks later and he's won a Grade 2. I wouldn't knock him too much for that, and I think there's probably more to come, and he's very consistent. He's really outside the top 2 in his career, so it might be better than it looked.
What was what's your eye catcher that maybe didn't win?
Springwell Bay in behind Highland.
Okay.
I'm always given Be Aware already. Second is potentially a Coral Cup horse. This new 2.5 mile handicapper, novice handicap, him off top weight.
Yeah.
Springwell Bay, I think, could be interesting. I think he jumped the best at that 4 at Highland Resplendent Grey. I think he's pretty good. I just didn't think he'd get home. He was so fresh. He was tanking along, and he just looked to me as if he just wanted 2.5 miles. He jumped the best out of them, I thought. He just couldn't settle properly and a bit too fresh and maybe a bit too eager. But I do think he's a very talented horse. We've seen it in his back form and in his novice hurdling days and open hurdle days, And I don't think the John O'Neill Yard had a clear run of things last season too much. And I think he's got a few of those kind of good, decent types. And I think he might be the best of them. The problem is now he's rated 145. So holding him back for a knock to 145 like that would be maybe a bit extreme. But he can certainly win something nice like 2.5 miles. He did catch my eye. I just didn't think he'd get home because of the trip.
I thought Resplendent Grey in that race maybe be one over further. I think the jump at the second last killed his chances. But the one at Navan in the opener on Sunday in the 3-year-old maiden hurdle was a horse formerly of Lucinda Russell's, now with Gordon Elliott. Wendrock, I thought it was just a blatant not blatant, but I think it was more if they had taken the shackles off, I think he'd have probably won. But I think they kind of knew what they were doing. Finished third. Formerly ran twice in the flat for Lucinda before going to Gigginstown and Gordon Elliott. I think there's a couple in here that might be quite decent. Beyond Your Dreams might be quite good. I think the winner looks okay, but I think Wendrock was the one where I thought you're definitely kind of playing for a mark here. So don't be surprised if we see him 3 or 4 times before maybe becoming a Boodles contender.
Yeah, I think that's kind of Irish racing in a nutshell, is it? Some of the maidens, the race fit winner, the favourites kicked away, and I go, well, this is... So right, I don't think second and third they mentioned that were fully seen to maximum effect that day, and all those behinds are ones for the future, isn't it? So yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of those in it, like maiden hurdles now that are kind of seeing where they are in their careers. There's been a couple like that in the green and gold in Gigginstown already.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move into what's coming up this weekend. We've got the first UK Grade 1 of the season. We have the Betfair Chase before that, a couple of good races at Haydock before. Got the Graduation Chase, which I think looks quite a fascinating race. You've got Iroko, 5-4 favourite, Tamuras, Trelawn and Hillcrest, who could potentially be making his return after a 981-day absence. Iroko, a horse you really liked last season. I think this could be a good reappearance for him.
Yeah, it's a nice graduation chase, isn't it? A novice that kind of lost the best part of the season, tried to get fit again, ran with a lot of promise at Aintree in second. So I know the way you're thinking. It's staying on that day. That was 3 mile 1, 2.5 here. Is that a bit in the short side for him? I know he's rating dwarfs these anyway, so it might not matter. But it is on reappearance, and it is a bit short. So I mean, if you're going to try and take him on, then I think Trip is definitely the angle there. But he's a classic horse. The Grand National is apparently the plan in the long run. So
Okay.
we'll definitely wait and see. So, but yeah, it's a reasonable starting point. This is probably the best Graduation Chase so far of the year, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
The Rising Stars winner, Boomborn is 14-1. That says a lot about the kind of potential depth of this. I think there's a lot of good horses in here. Definitely Silence of the Skeletons is probably a good horse. Hillcrest coming back from a long layoff, needs the rain. He's again another hardy steer. Trelawn,
Are we getting rain? I know
good
it's
horse.
obviously temperature, but I think there is rain forecast.
It seems like we are, yeah. It seems like, I mean, it's already gone good to soft a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and the rain is coming. So again, that's why it's very hard to kind of tip anything right now, because you've got to kind of
Yeah.
see. But if the rain comes, you'd imagine that's a plus for Rocco.
Yeah.
His last 3 runs have all been in soft, and they come back. Timuris, Nichols Yard are probably needing it slightly, but he's a high class horse in his own right. Trelawn was well fancied for the Ultima alongside
Yeah.
Chianti Classico and didn't go to plan. He's a decent stayer, and he won the rain. Hillcrest would want rain, and Meyertown's here, which is a very
Yes, I've seen
tough,
that.
a very very tough introduction to chasing. But again, it's another sign of how highly regarded this horse potentially is. Again, they want a bit of cut in the ground. Think they need to go here. He does get a few concessions, but on raw figures, it is a big ask, and you'd be hoping for a bit better than 18-1 on the day. I might have a little saver on him. Probably will, because I'm very interested in see how his career will go. But you've got to remember this is kind of starting point for the season for them. So I think once you need to kind of know what the ground is, and you need to know what kind of the way the market's pointing at the moment. Rocco's rate 152. He's £8 clear of all of these really, and he's not really conceding much weight to anything at all really within that. So he's on figures. He's the right 5-4 favourite.
Into the 230, which is the Betfair Stairs handicap hurdle. Doyen Quest, who obviously won at the November meeting last weekend. Quick turnaround if he is going. 7-2 favourite. You've got Shoot First, who again was very, very high regarded for upper temps 2 seasons ago. Made a comeback 4 weeks ago, and I think there was a wee bit of a question mark to what was happening there. He's in there as well. You've got Catcham Derry, Kerry Hill. You've got likes of Camden Ass, Gwenny Mayboy. Doyen Quest, it'd be a quick turnaround to win a Betfair Stairs handicap a week after winning at Cheltenham.
He was miles ahead of his mark. He was smashed in as if he
Yeah.
was unbeaten. He's going to go up 10. He's only carrying a £5 penalty here. It's a valuable race. They're going for 56 grand to the winner. The Skeltons have got the third favourite, Catcham Derry, which was good in the air when I saw him.
Tristan Durrow on board, I believe.
Yeah, £3 clear. I think he's a very good deputy to Harry Skelton. So, and I was looking at him before they supplemented Doyen Quest for this. So, and he's off 10-8. So if it gets attritional, it's definitely going to suit him, because he wasn't stopping in that 3 mile race at Ayr, and he was backed at 5-6 that day. And that was a competitive 16 runner handicap. So Skelton's. It's almost Willie Mullins, like, the level of dominance here, in the handicap the market. We're saying, like, it's very, very hard to take these on. The money's coming for them. They're ahead of their mark. They're top operation that know what they're doing, and they're rarely missing. So the money for them, respect. So I'd rather play Catcham Derry each way 8-1 than back Doyen Quest 72, because there might be that bounce factor a little bit. It is a long trip, but he couldn't have won any easier. Shoot First, bit of a recovery mission, maybe not quite the same horse. He ran okay in Galway, went 5th of 10. Second's done nothing for the form. There was a long steers report. I mean, even looking at the form at Shoot First in that race, there was a long steers report into it. So it was so long.
They said they got a bang turning in, I think they said.
Yeah, it was so long I wasn't bothered reading it, to be honest. Yeah, I think, at age 8 now, he's carrying a big weight here as well, isn't he? It would take a very smart performance to win it. If he won it and he won it well, he'd have to enter Stairs Hurdle.
Yeah,
he's the one that'd have to enter Stairs Hurdle equation if he wins it. Kerry Hill was mightily impressive at Doncaster in January when he won. He was kind of linked to Albert Bartlett, but they kind of sensibly took it softer. The fourth in that race was Destroy the Evidence, who looks like Kim Bailey's Ultimate horse this year. So I mean, that's probably good form for, you know, in the season Doncaster things. I mean, that's probably good horse, but we don't know how ready that is. And I was really impressed with Cam Sinas at Aintree. I backed him at 72 and he went out to 8-1. He won. The second that day has filled the same spot at Cheltenham since the October meeting of an Ollie Murphy horse, which is decent. And he reminds me a lot of Cramble, who went this route. But the thing is, he's entered in the opener, which looks easier, and he's out to 12-1 for this. So I think he's going to run in the first race. So and that looks an easier race at a more intermediate trip. So I think he might go there, but I think he's better than 135. And you know, going to May Boys is not a bad horse either. Zane Knights can win races. It's a valuable race with plenty of depth in it, but it's hard to look away from the Skelton pair at the moment with the rain coming in, with the price that he is each way and his weight. I think Catch'em Derry's probably pretty tempting. He's also had a pipe opener at Newton Abbott, which he won pretty easily as well. So I think he's ahead of the handicapper massively.
Moving into the big race at Haydock, the Betfair Chase. Grey Dawning, obviously last year's Turner's winner, is in here at 15-8. Royal Pagaille, Ahoy Senor. Willie Mullins has supplemented Capadano, which I think is quite interesting. You've got the likes of Hewick in here as well. Gold Tweet, which I think is hilarious how he's entered in here. Grey Dawning, though, obviously big shot into open company. You've kind of looked at this race for a while. Since he won the Turners, we're thinking, right, Betfair Chase next season. The way he won at Haydock last year, I think it's a good thing here.
No.
No? Okay.
Well, he's. Do you know how many pounds he's rated official in the handicapper behind the Hoy Senor?
£12.
One's 5-1, and one's 15-8.
If a Hoy Senor's winning any race of the season, it's this.
Well, this is a golden opportunity, isn't
Yes.
it? This is it. I mean, Harry Skeltons have done this before. The one that we protected at 2 years ago, unfancied and reappearance and things like that. So we can obviously win, and he's an improver. He's a young horse that's going to come into it. So there's an expectancy there for him to improve, and there's an expectancy for him to win. But the price is, I think he's short enough. I can't see him winning, but I can't see myself backing him right now. I think you might get a bit better because when the rain comes, money will come for Royal Pagaille, who loves the place.
Yeah.
I've been seen for a while, though, took a heavy fall in the Cotswold Chase. Race won by Capadano, who's been supplemented here at 8.
Good job to that. That's quite interesting, I think, that's the route they're going down.
Well, he usually needs his first run, and surely he's healed because Corbett's Cross hasn't made it, and the owner just wants a run.
Yeah.
I don't think he's ready for this personally, but stranger things have happened. He came and won the Cotswold Chase. If he runs to that form, he could conceivably win it. Hewick, is he going to go when this rain comes? Same with Brave Man's Game. He went want it soft, and he's on the downgrade, and the Real Whacker won an inferior race. But if he's going to take his chance, but he's a pace angle, so it should be a strongly run affair. I'm torn between Ahoy Senor and Grey Dawning. But at the prices, I think I've got to be suckered in by Ahoy Senor because he's rated £12 higher. He's had an obvious float up for this at Aintree where he ran really, really well.
Yeah.
And if he's going to win a Grade 1 again, this is it. It's a flat track, stamina test, big jumping test. Go out, let him stride. And if you're going to beat the favourite who's the main danger, you're going to do it in race fitness grounds because he has been penciled in for a comeback in the Charlie Hall where the ground went too quick, and the Colin Park at Carlisle where the ground was good to soft, but it was still deemed too quick for some reason, and they pulled him out both times. So he can't be 100% fit, and he probably is reasonably fit, but he might be 90% fit, and he's taken open Grade 1 horses here. This is kind of sink or swim. The thing, if this rain comes, it comes bottomless. It's a bit of a concern for Ahoy Senor, slightly, because he would kind of want to skip and go along, but good to soft to be fine, even reasonable soft to be fine. And at the prices, I think he's got to kind of be the play because I thought he jumped a lot straighter at Aintree, even though the trip was too short. But he looked very efficient, and to me, he might flatter to deceive, but he looks good. He looks the part.
Yeah.
And even Gold Cup territory, right? See any horse outside 20-1, 60-61, he's the only horse I'd be interested in remotely.
Okay.
I think he's got that much talent. They haven't harnessed it properly, and there's been debates about how they've campaigned him and what they're trying to do with him a little bit, and are they trying to kind of mould something that isn't quite there? Um, this is a golden chance to kind of show what you can
I think it is. I
actually
think,
do, and you're getting a reasonable enough price against
yeah.
what could be a future Gold Cup horse and a very good horse, but that is it could be. You're still dealing in Kudzi. I remember at Aintree, he was poor after Cheltenham.
Yeah, it was.
I know. All right, it was after Cheltenham, and that's fine. It's poor, and Jenny's Destiny didn't do anything for that Tunnel's form.
No.
I know he travelled well and was well fancied, but he blew up. Didn't
Well,
finish the race.
we could obviously get a look at the Turner's form because Jello is running at 1/2 against Pictori at Ascot. Now, Jello was third in that Turner's.
And was
But
second behind GPR1. He was fifth in an Arkle, and a lot
yeah,
of Arkle winners are winning. I mean, I would rather have middling Arkle form than third in the Turners.
hmm
Maybe even second and first in the Turners. The Arkle and the Brown Advisory to me were far stronger
yeah,
than the Turners. At the moment, it's playing out. Obviously, the novices in the Killeen and Grey Dawning could be better, but because it went soft, they went that way instead of the Brown Advisory, and because Brown Advisory was going to be obviously a tougher race. The tunnels became eminently winnable and they went there. That's why he's not got the mark that merits his price at the moment. He's priced in potential grounds, not in form grounds. And I think, I think it's between him and a Hoisin for me. I think Royal Pagani reaching 10, I think, even though it's his favourite venue and he gets soft, I think it's a big ask. Hoisin had a better prep and he's a far better price. Prices dictate opinions, and at the moment, I'd be staying with him.
okay. So a house in York for Callum. I do think Grey Dawning, if it I think we need to see if Grey Dawning is going to be a Gold Cup horse, I think he needs to win this. But we'll move into Ascot. We obviously mentioned the Pictori versus Jello. It's hard to see. I get obviously Jello's got the potential and has had the run, but Pictori around Ascot at 10-11 just seems very hard to oppose.
Yeah, he's a stone clear, isn't he?
Yeah.
12 pounds. Yeah, it's kind of tight for a reason. I mean, maybe Jello's had the run. Progressive horse coming up. Has Pictori really beat much of substance? Only Shishkin's beat him around here, but these are 3-4 runner races all the time. He's just bucking out and dictating, and
Yeah.
Jello going up and trip. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, Dashel is in there, and he could apply pace pressure to Pictori as well. So you've got that to factor in. Le Patron's he's a grade 1 winner.
Yeah.
At tens. Corrigan Rock likes to go forward, even though he's maybe not good enough at this level. So Pictori might not get his own way at front. He should have the class to go and win this. I would like to back Jello, but the price difference isn't big enough yet. Unlike the Grey Dawning and the Hoisin situation where it is at the moment, here it isn't. And I was expecting Pictori to be about 4-6 or something like that, and Jello about pushing in a 5-2, 3-1, but it's a bit tighter than expected. So at the moment, I wouldn't be touching that race.
We've got the Ascot hurdle at 2:45, who will see the return of the Mayor's novice hurdle winner, Golden Ace. She's favourite here, 94. You've got Blue King Daru, Django Bay's in there. You've got Thunder Rock, Salva. Quite a decent race. Golden Ace is quite interesting, though, to see how she comes back.
Yeah, Mayor's novice hurdle winner, then won at Cheltenham up and trip as well in that Mayor's race. Probably didn't have to improve much to do that, but it proved that she stayed the trip. This will be softer ground up against the boys. Blue Kangaroo should be a year stronger, but again, Nichols Yard are coming into form, but are they still needing their first run? This is kind of thing. It's the kind of thing where if Pictori wins beforehand, then I think Blue Kangaroo goes off, my joint favourite, maybe even favourite for this race on ratings because he's the 150 performer. Thunder Rock reverting to hurdles, interesting. Salva's got form, but would need it pretty bottomless, you'd imagine. Given that he was third in the Triumph, so he's bringing Triumph 4-4-95 into it. Botox has is there, who's got good back form, but he's kind of hard to trust in this track and trip. Should be a bit short from. So the one I like here going up is Django Bay though.
Okay.
He's the one I would back. Second entry to Katira in the handicap hurdle, where again just bumping into another Skelton Blot, but they pulled away fairly comfortably for the rest of a decent field. There was an Elliott horse there. What's Up Darling in fourth, and the Waterside's highly regarded in third. They both sauntered away from him pretty easily. Willie Mullins' favourite was well beaten in eighth. The Lanzarote winner ninth, Garrier Dreams 10th. It's solid handicap form as you can get. He was second at Kelso. In the Moor Battle, he ran pretty well there. He's a high-class horse. He's rated 146. Plan was to go to Cheltenham. Didn't quite work. They kind of defected a little bit. They went with Jinko Blue instead. But he won that Formby race from Favour of Fortune, which looked a bit ordinary form at the time because Faringolori was going to win that last Christmas. But fell up. But Favour of Fortune then subsequently won a Scottish champion hurdle. So, I mean, he's a better horse than that. And Kamsimas was sixth, and he's come out and won a grade 2 and then an open handicap quite similarly. The fact Nicky Henderson's pitching in here in this kind of nice grade 2 introduction seems good to me. I think he's the one that might have the most potential. It's a 5-year-old, and I think he's a reasonable enough price at 5-1. I think you might outclass these and you might outstay Golden Ace. And given that Blue Kangaroo might need it as well, is another thing that enters the equation. So it's a nice little race, but at the moment I'm with Django Bay.
Okay. One of my strongest fancies of the weekend at the moment comes in the 320. I think Maritor for the Williams team and the handicap chase won his last 4. Looked really good last time out. Course and distance winner. I don't think much in here. He's off 140. Should be good enough, I think, to win here. I don't think there's much in here at all that worries me. But let's head over to Ireland because we've got 2 grade 1s. We've got Punchestown on Saturday. One of the most strange grade 1s I think I've ever seen. State Man's obviously 2-5 in the Morgiana. Lossiemouth, I'm not. I don't know if she's going or not. She's entered for the Hatton's Grace as well. She might go there. Ballyburn still entered here, but entered in a beginner's chase. So Christ knows what's happening there. State Man probably should just win, shouldn't he?
Well, and the market's telling you what's happening here.
The Ballyburn stuff's baffling, isn't it?
It's going over fences, in my opinion. I mean, State Man, the market's telling you that State Man's only one running here.
Yeah.
Lossiemouth's going to Hatton's Grace and Ballyburn's going fences. That's all we need to. Don't forget about Twitter quotes, Mullins, hyperbole, or whatever. This market is telling you what's going to happen. Lossiemouth won't run. State Man will. State Man will win. If Ballyburn was a serious runner here, he would not be 5-1.
No, definitely not.
And if Lossiemouth was not running, he should be shorter.
I think Ballyburn would be favourite.
No.
He's definitely not going, but I just don't get who is backing Ballyburn at 5-1 for this race when he's entered in a beginner's chase.
No, not at Punchestown over 2 miles in his first open run, because that's a sharp track right-handed where it comes to pace, and he's won over much further. Even Lossiemouth, I think, would be a bit shorter than that. And his first run open company, and he's £7 inferior to State Man.
Yeah,
it's a bit like. It's a bit like the Betfair Chase where Grade Dawning. Yeah, he has a future Gold Cup horse, and he's the front of the racing post and the papers there. But he is officially £12 behind the horse in right now, and until he does it, he isn't.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of current state of play. So State Man's going to win. 2-5 might actually look good because I think his main 2 rivals aren't going to turn up. Daddy Longlegs might because of the ground, and he's now that just 150.
Think Brighter Days Ahead goes.
It looks more like fighting fifth, does it?
Yeah.
According to the market,
It should just be a Willie Mullins schooling session.
Well, yeah,
the 4-runner race.
Yeah, and it's telling you that it's going to. Phil Zadori will probably run. Winter Fog might run, and Daddy Longlegs might run. I don't think Brighter Days Ahead would.
Moving into Sunday, we've got the John Durkin Punchestown Chase with Willie Mullins has got a few entered here. Now, he has said that a few of these will run. Fact to File leads the market 2-1. Last year's winner 5-2 faster slow for Martin Brazel. Gallop and Deschamps is in here at 4-1. I don't think he's running. And you've got the likes of Spillane's Tower, Grange Clear West. I know the way your thinking's in there. It's far more fascinating than the Morgiana. But we still don't really know what's turning up. And I think it changes the complexion of the race if Gallop and Deschamps goes, for example, which I don't think he will.
I think this is a much more mature and formed market. I think he will run.
Think so?
What he said recently suggests that he will. He's missed a few weeks' work, but the intention is to run. He said he might run 6.
Gaelic Warrior isn't running from what I can see here. He's not. I know he was
Gaelic
entered.
Warrior's not entered.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think he'll run. It looked like it didn't, but he seems to be happy enough like with a starting point. So he seems to be back on it, and he's rightfully priced. I don't think he could fast or slow. I think the market looks pretty correct to me here.
Yeah.
And I think if he wasn't going to run, I think Gallop and Deschamps would probably be bigger than he is. Spillane still is a threat because it says kind of conditions. It's right-handed. He could be kind of what fast or slow might have been. He's rated 155 and going up and trip. He's a dangerous each-way player.
I think Spillane's Tower's the bet here.
He says he's a 155. He's got to kind of pick it up. He does have like £16 to fine with a fast or slow or something like that on raw figures, but it's very hard to gauge until the confirmations come in. But I think Factifile will be quite forward. I think if you've got a novice like that and you're intending to run him in a race like this, I think Willie Mullins will be quite keen to see where he's got more to prove than Gallop and Deschamps in the long run, isn't he? So I mean, you'd have to think that he's probably forward fitness wise, and we know that Gallop and Deschamps had a very minor setback,
and it's 2.5.
And it's 2.5,
yeah.
and he's showing more pace, and you've got the potential factored in, and so what, and Gallop and Deschamps, the way he ran in it last year as well, in relation to fast or slow. And fast or slow now, he's not had a setback, but the way he was taking it, the King George suggests that he might have. But again, that's a kind of puzzle. But obviously, course and distance, Punch Sounds his playground. In merits respect, is going to be near the top of the market. An interesting Grange-Clare West. He's going to come back, long absence, but could do it. I know the way you're thinking. I think this is too short for him, and his jumping wouldn't hold up. Whether he runs it is open to question. I think Journey with me maybe, but is he going to run here? He'll probably need it softer. So Blue Lord, isn't he? He's kind of probably more Grade 2 class now. So
yeah,
it's an interesting little race. I think I'll probably back Factifile if I have a bet in it.
Okay.
Because I think he's a one Willie Mullins will want to be pretty forward. I think he's got the tactical speed to cope with it. And I think he could prove that he can be this new upcoming on the block and he can compete at the top level. So
I think if Factifile,
the market's going to point you that way as well, but I think he can get a better price in the day.
Yeah, I think if Factifile was to get beaten, I think there'd be a lot of question marks. If Gallop and Deschamps gets beaten, I don't think it matters too much because we know he's not at his best in Punchestown. Where if Factifile's going here, you're of the opinion that he's going here to win. If that makes sense, I know that sounds stupid, but what I mean is that Factifile probably needs to win this to be what we hope he is this season. Whereas Gallop and Deschamps,
he needs to run well. He needs to be fit. He'll need to be fit to do himself justice.
Yeah,
that's the kind of thing. But even if he does get beat, he's going to get beat by the right kind of horses. Fast or slow, Gallop and Deschamps, Spillane's Tower. I don't think it'd be curtains for him either way. But he's the one that I would bank on being most forward because Fast or Slow and Gallop and Deschamps, their campaign set out for themselves. They've been round the block. They know what they're doing. This is just a stepping stone for them. So unless something bad happens and they shape horribly, then you wouldn't be concerned about them. But if Factifile is kind of a bit undercooked and gets found out, weakens out of it, finishes third or fourth, and you're a bit disappointed, then he'd have a lot more to prove than the others in that regard. So I think that's why he's favourite. I think that's why the market speaks pretty positively because I think he's probably going to be forward and he might be the one that's set up to win this because I think he's got the most to gain by winning it. So I would narrowly say with him, but I do think 2-1 at the moment. I think you probably get better closer to the off.
So obviously, myself and Callum will have our selections up on our social media accounts for the weekend. I just noticed, looking, getting into kind of anti-post discussions, Zenta is entered in a beginner's chase at Cork on Sunday. There's also, you've obviously got likes of the Craddockstown, Florida Peril. There's some good action over the weekend, so there will be probably some takeaways. But you do have a pick this week, but it's not for Cheltenham.
No, it's in the Beecher. It's Gabaro of Green on Guerrero. Third in the Sefton. Trip was too short, stayed on really well, but took to the fence is lovely. Young enough horse, and they won the Sefton last year with Guess Keel. Unfortunately, was no longer with us, but didn't quite stay. the Beecher when they went that route. I think this horse is the opposite. It didn't quite have the pace in the Sefton, but I think the Beecher's right down his street. I think he'll improve. The winner of the Sefton is favourite. Again, at sevens. I think you can get a lot closer over this trip. To come from further back, went quite wide as well. The flying ointment is Coco Beach has entered, and with the handicap system now, he's at like 150 odd. And this horse Gabarrow's at 128, so you'd be out the weights, but pretty much everything of relevance would be out the weights if that runs. So it's one of those things where you have to take you have to roll the dice with it. But he drifted on the day 13-2 out of 10-1, as if he might need the reappearance run. That it might be short enough for him, the ground might be a shade too quick for him, and that's exactly how he ran. And he ran well to stay on for third, didn't quite the tactical speeds, and he was the one that he automatically went, we'll go back to the Beecher next month. Connections have confirmed that that's a plan. Should get a run for it. Weight-wise, I think there'll be enough that will be above him that will come out that he should get a run. It's usually a classy enough race, but this year it might not be, so Coco Beach factor out the weights is a little bit of a niggle, but he's 16-1 Paddy Power and Betfair, and that's simply too big because I can't see him. If he runs, he won't go off. I mean, 10-1 for that. He'll be shorter. He'll go off 6-7-1 best, I think. So I mean, 16s right now for a horse for a race in December 7th. It's pretty specific. Target set out. You don't need to worry about ground or anything. I think he's a reasonable enough bet, 16s, and I think he's bound to hit the frame because he goes over the fences, and he's still reasonably unexposed, and the yard do well with those types of horses. So and he's shaped well, so I think there's a lot to like. 16s.
No,
that's
fine. I think that's absolutely fair enough. That's a good prediction. We'll get that up on the channel this week as well. Callum, we're going to wrap up there. Obviously, next week we'll have a lot to talk about in terms of Grade 1 action. I think it's going to be very, very fascinating. Pleasure as always, mate. Thank you very much.
Yeah, as always, we'll be back here next week hoping that Zenta's reverted back to hurdles after a third failed chasing effort. Even Willie Mullins and JP McManus can get it wrong. I don't understand why 145 can win a mare's hurdle and she's sitting there in 145, not going up 2.5 miles on trip. So missing a trick there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But hey ho, never know.
Let's see next week.
She's out of 66 to win places. I'm going to go back in.
Yeah, I think you should. I think that'd be good. But we will be back next week, folks. Enjoy your weekend. Please gamble responsibly. And we'll see you all soon. Thank you.